If you are tired of attracting men who have toxic relationship patterns, you are going to love this. Have you ever noticed this? That the men who are the worst for you are somehow the hardest to stop thinking about, right? Where he's inconsistent, or he pulls away, or he gives you just enough attention to keep you hoping. And instead of walking away, you find yourself thinking about him and constantly going over the scenes in your mind of what you said and what you texted, and you're checking your phone and you're replaying every word in your mind. And then a kind, steady, available guy shows up, a man who actually calls when he says he's going to call, and you feel flat, like there's no spark, there's no excitement. If that's been your pattern, know this: there is something biologically happening with you that's much more than just psychological, that's drawing you to men who have toxic patterns and actually impeding your ability to feel attraction for those who are more healthy. I'm going to show you exactly why that's happening and what you can do about it so that you can create the kind of relationship with a healthy man that you want. After coaching women for decades, what I've realized is this is a very common pattern. And the cool part is the solve isn't about actually more willpower, just causing ourselves to be attracted to someone who's healthier, because that does not work. Or it's not about, well, I just need to be smarter and less dumb about my choices. Like, that's just judgment and shame. And you want to let any of that go. What helps is really understanding the underlying biochemistry that's going on in your body, that's connected to your history in a way that's actually taught you how to recognize what you perceive as love. A great analogy for this is the slot machine. The reason that slot machines are so addictive is because the reward is what's called unpredictable or variable. In other words, you don't win every time. You win just enough to keep yourself pulling that lever. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, and it is the single most addictive reward pattern that exists. Now let's connect that idea to the emotionally unavailable man, right? He's hot and then he's cold. He comes close and then he gets distant. He's available, then he's gone, right? So he is without meaning to be a human slot machine. And that way of being is the exact mechanism that ultimately hooks our brain and sinks its teeth into it, and it won't let it go. It's like that addiction pattern. And so that fluttery, anxious, I can't even sleep or eat feeling that we will often call chemistry. It's like, oh, this guy lights me up in all these ways. Most of the time it's not rooted in love. It's actually adrenaline, and it's actually coming from this addictive pattern. And here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Joe Dispenza studies this, and I love how he provides research on the way that the brain and the body are connected. And he teaches something that completely changed how I understood this kind of attraction. And he talks about how our bodies become chemically addicted to the emotions that you feel most in your life. In fact, he puts it this way. He says that if you cannot control your emotional state, it's because your body is addicted to it. Here's how it works. Every time you feel an emotion, your body is releasing a specific chemical cocktail of hormones that travel throughout your whole system. They bathe every cell in your body. And when you feel that same emotion over and over again, your body starts to crave those chemicals. Every cell starts to crave those chemicals, the same way that your body would crave caffeine or that your body would crave sugar. And Dispenza describes how our neurons that fire together, wire together, ultimately what happens is our body builds what's called this home base. In other words, what feels really normal in our chemical makeup. So imagine if your emotional home base is anxiety or longing or uncertainty or this state of like, will he, won't he feeling. When that's your home base, here's what happens. When life finally gets calm and steady, your body doesn't actually feel relief. Your body doesn't feel peace. It doesn't feel calm. Your body feels like something is wrong. Something is off. And so without even realizing it, your body will send you signals to go and recreate the very drama that feels like home. That's why we will gravitate towards the guys who are bad for us, the relationships that create that drama feeling. That's why chaos actually feels magnetic. It feels good. It's this both chaos but also familiar. And that's also why peace feels boring. Safety feels boring. The nervous system is literally just simply reaching for your home base. Now, what's helpful is to understand where this home base comes from, because we didn't just create it on our own. For most of us, this home base was written a long time ago, most often in our early childhood, and it comes from a very early programming, paradigm training, early experiences where love felt uncertain. Love felt like longing or yearning or chasing after somebody's approval. Maybe you had a parent whose love, it felt like, was always just out of reach. Like you had to earn whatever you needed to earn just to get their love and approval. You had to constantly strive for it. You had to be perfect in their eyes. You had to work for it, earn it, or maybe they weren't around very often, or it was always this like, hey, make mommy happy, or do it for daddy, be perfect. Even programming like that can create this feeling of like, I've got to perform in order to have love. And so your system learned to call that feeling, that reaching feeling, striving, chasing feeling, love. In psychology, they talk about the anxious and avoidant trap, where one person is striving and reaching and pursuing the other person because they're anxious, and the other person pulls away because they're avoidant, and this creates the downward loop. So when a man is unavailable and you have to reach for him, that actually feels familiar to your nervous system. It feels more safe to your nervous system. And your brain confuses familiar with right. Oh, this must be good. This must be right because this feels normal to me. Which brings us to then when you meet someone who is emotionally available and stable, right? The person who calls you when they say they're going to call. The person who shows up when they say they're going to show up. So I invite you to reconsider what that no spark, especially early in the relationship, actually is. Because calm, while we might interpret it to be this lack of attraction, what if it's actually the absence of anxiety? What if instead of, like, if you're used to being on a roller coaster, what if feeling like you're on solid ground actually just doesn't feel exciting? And we've been programmed to look for that excitement, right? Instead of recognizing that what if one of the most important feelings that you can have early in the relationship is the feeling of peace and ease and safety. So part of breaking this pattern is learning to actually reread these signals that your body is sending you, and that the flutter or the electricity that we've been chasing, if it's met with chaos, if it's triggered with inconsistency, is actually our alarm system going off. So part of breaking this pattern is actually learning to reinterpret these signals and see that the excitement that we've been chasing might be actually sourced in chaos, and to actually relabel that feeling of peace, that feeling of ease as super important, and it might be the foundation of the stable love that we've been looking for this whole time. Here's a perfect example of this. A woman that I write about in Cracking the Man Code, one of my clients, her name's Tanya, was a former military commander. And so she was strong, she was smart, she was completely capable, and yet in her love life, it was like the same thing kept happening over and over again. She'd meet a guy, she would pour herself in, she would do the initiating, she would do the reaching out, and ultimately she was carrying the emotional weight of this relationship, and he would be interested and then kind of pull back, and then give her attention and then not give her attention. And she'd get left on red, she'd get let down, ultimately she would feel ghosted, and this was a pattern happening over and over again. And for a long time, she believed that the problem was her, that maybe she was just too much, or that love wasn't in the cards for her. But here's what Tanya finally realized, that she had actually been drawn again and again to men who kept her reaching, men who kept her in that anxious, uncertain, longing state, because on some level, that state for her felt familiar. It was exactly what she experienced with her dad. It was exactly what she learned to experience early on. She loved the excitement of the drama, and so she began to recreate it in her love life. And so she decided to try something different, where she didn't give up her strength to do this either, because I love that. She's a super strong woman. What she did was she just stopped over-functioning, and she started looking for something different. And instead of her doing all the work to fill the gaps, she started meeting men halfway, asking for what she wanted, but then putting more value on what felt consistent, peaceful, safe. And in that space, something amazing happened. Men who showed up that she would have otherwise said, like he's okay, but he's not really what I'm into. She let those relationships develop. And it was like these beautiful relationships of safety and love and respect that when planted, they blossomed into something beautiful where ultimately she did have the chemistry. She did have the love. She did have the ultimate feelings that she wanted to feel, but they came in a different sequence than she was used to experiencing. So if you're watching this and you're wanting to shift this pattern because you know that there might be a part of you that's addicted to the chaos, a part of you that likes the uncertainty, how do you shift that pattern? Well, step one is you want to name the loop when it's happening. So the next time you feel that magnetic pull towards someone who is inconsistent, say to yourself, this isn't what love is. This is simply my nervous system craving its home base. And so naming it actually takes your power back, and it leads you to step number 2, which is you can learn to sit in the calm without running from it. In other words, when you're with the steady, available man and it feels a little boring in the very beginning, don't panic. Actually sit in that calm and then don't label it as no chemistry, actually label it as, oh, what if this has the foundation or the seeds of really stable love? And that allows you to actually stay in it long enough for the chemistry to begin to ignite. And then step number 3 is look for the signs of stable love moving forward. And so you can run some questions in your mind about the person that you're seeing. Are they consistent? Do they actually move towards you? Are they good at solving challenges and can they communicate? And one of the most important ones is, how do you feel about yourself when you're with this person? Notice this last question, because one of the patterns that people who are inconsistent use is to try to make you feel like you never quite measure up. But notice, when you're with them, do you feel expansive? Do you feel calm? Do you feel good about yourself? That is a great sign. And then step number 4 is to actually start building a new home base on purpose. What does that mean? Practice generating a biochemical state that you want more of. So practice and notice feeling chosen, feeling settled, feeling safe, feeling at peace, and let that be normal and be grateful for it. Notice it, pour gratitude into it, and you will begin to rewire your nervous system. And ultimately, you will begin to associate peace, safety, feeling chosen, keeping agreements, all of that with love. And that's when the chemistry for those things will enhance and increase, and you will have all the aspects that you're looking for. So if you would love to go even deeper into how men actually think and what makes a man truly available and how recognize a great man and great love when it shows up, that's exactly what is covered in my new book, Cracking the Man Code. It just came out. The link is going to be right below this video. Grab this book. You are going to love it. And I would love to hear from you. If you're the individual who you've noticed this pattern of being attracted to people who there's a bit more chaos and drama, what have you done to help yourself really anchor and make welcome more stable love in your life? Go ahead and put the comments in the comment section below. I appreciate you. Here is to being even more empowered to create the life that you would love to live. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.